Okay guys, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how I'm going to make the brakes on the other side of the car look as good as this one. I just got done doing this side of the brake system and just replaced the caliper, the wheel bearings, new pads, everything in here. Everything looks nice and fresh. So I'm going to take you over to the other side and I'm going to show you how we did that. This isn't necessarily a guide on how to do brakes on an 87 Camero, because let's face it, most people don't even have an 87 Camaro. So the reality is this is just gonna be a video of me doing a brake job on my car. You can see these are nice and crusty. We got the old wheel bearing down in here. Now, one of the upgrades we did do on this car is we went from these bearings that have these plastic outer cage on the outside. I don't know if you can see that very well. And they're pretty nasty looking anyway, but that's just because of the grease. So I'm gonna get you set up on the tripod and I'm gonna start working on these brakes. There you go. You guys can see. I'm gonna get to working on them, and then you'll see how quickly I put them back together, because I already pre-assembled the rotors with the new wheel bearings on the inside. That's not very complicated. All you do is pack the bearing and put it in there, and then put the seal on the back. Nope, I'm not sure I have to show you guys that, but I will show you when I pack the bearing right here when we get to that point. This really won't take that long to knock apart. It's going to take me about probably like 2-3 minutes, I would say. Alright, first you want to get back here to your caliper bolts. I already got my wrench on it. Start taking them out. And this wouldn't be the first step. Your first step would have been to remove your dust cover, your nut, your cotter pin, all of that. That's right here in this location. I already did that. So you guys are just coming along to see me do the brakes. But that's why I said this isn't a guide, because I already did half the job. Just made sure we're still recording, because last time I did a video like this, I did the whole thing and I didn't end up recording it. Alright, so I'll go ahead and get the bottom one out before I take this top bolt all the way out, because sometimes you can end up, the caliper start moving and it'll make it harder for you to take it out. So we're going to go ahead and just get your 3/8 Allen key back down in the bottom. I know I didn't mention that at first, but these are 3/8. They're not metric. And even though a 3/8 is close to a 10 mil, a 10 mil will not fit in these bolts. So I didn't have SAE Allen key set, so I had to go get a set. And now I have a set. They're like $35, but you know what? They're my favorite brand, Craftsman. I really love using Craftsman in my garage. And I know they're not the world's like nicest tool, but I feel like every one of them I've bought has been good tools. And they're pretty high quality. My local, what is that called? My local hardware store, they carry Craftsman. So that's why a lot of times when I go to get a tool, it ends up being a Craftsman. It's fine. You know, I really haven't broken any Craftsman wrenches. I buy a lot of them. And I do have electric tools to do stuff like this, but I personally, since most of the time it's a lot of tactile feel, I personally like to do it with my hands. But, you know, in your shop and, you know, at home and how much time you got, you might not have time to do shit like this with your hands. So just take that into consideration. And if you don't have time to do a brake job, why not just pay someone to do it? In all reality, I mean, it's not like a very simple thing. You know, you could, if you did a brake job wrong, you could go to stop your car and not stop. You know, this is a safety thing. I don't know if any of you subscribers know this, but when I got out of high school, I went to college for a couple of years. I did not graduate, but I did get certified in brakes because I was trying to get an automotive engineering degree. So I actually know how to do brakes and maintain, you know, the entire braking system on a car. So yeah, I mean, if you're questioning if I know what I'm talking about, I do. And I don't know everything. I'm sure plenty of other people don't know everything, but that's just how life is. So with these pins, all I do is just take the brush, just wipe them off real quick. Now these are going to function as your slide pins on these cars. And you can see they have a little groove right here. There's a bushing in the back that sits inside the caliper bracket that this slides in and out on. And it's not a whole lot of slide, because in all reality, the brakes don't really move that much to begin with, and the pad's what's actually moving inside the caliper. But this allows a little bit of back and forth movement. That's why these threads on the end of this isn't threaded. It's to allow the caliper to move back and forth just slightly. But I clean these off real quickly with the brush just to get any loose debris off of them. You don't got to get them super clean. The middle of this is always exposed. It doesn't do anything. So you just got to clean these off real quick and put a little bit more grease on them when you put them back in. And it's not that big a deal. Yep, and I'll grease those up before I put them back in. Now I'm going to take my hammer and I'm going to smack this caliper real quick to get it to break loose. And you see it's coming up. So you come down to the bottom, hit the bottom a little bit. Now it's out. I'm going to pull the pads out. You can't fit the pad depressor in here at first until you push it in with the pad depressor. So you're going to have to push this caliper in with the pad depressor. We're going to do that here soon after I get this spindle taken off and get a couple things cleaned up. But like I said, it doesn't really take that long to do all this. I don't know how long it just took me to say everything and do it in front of you. It took me 5 minutes from when I said. So I was a little bit wrong, 2 to 3 minutes. You know, I was a little bit overzealous, but this ain't that hard to do, ladies and gentlemen. You could do this. You could do a brake job without recording it in probably a half hour. Just again, I mean, if you don't have time to do a brake job, then just have someone else do it. Because brake jobs really don't take that long. But you want to go ahead and spray these dust covers and everything with your brake clean before you start scraping, before you start wire brushing anything. Because if you don't, you'll end up putting all that dust up into the air. And some of these brake pads that are older, they're made out of asbestos. And as most people know, asbestos is bad for you. You don't want to be inhaling that when you're doing a brake job. I should really be wearing a respirator, but I'm not that guy. I've done a million brake jobs without wearing a respirator. I'll be okay. I'm probably gonna die at a young age anyway from exposure to brake clean and not wearing gloves and all that shit. You can go ahead and talk about that in the comments. But yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and just clean up all the loose debris off of the dust cover. It don't gotta be perfect. Some people might clean and, you know, take a chance to paint these. I'm not going to. Yeah, in the future, I might even get rid of all of this and convert to a Corvette style brake system, which is why I don't really care that much at the moment. These brakes were like $100. We'll go ahead and throw them on and have a good set of brakes. That's how I view it, you know? But honestly, I'm kind of questioning if these are even enough brake now for us, because if you've been following us for a while, you would know that this car actually has an LS in it that I just swapped that has 450 horsepower, allegedly. I haven't, it obviously hasn't been on the dyno or anything like that, so maybe that's something we'll do in the future, but allegedly 450. That's what they're saying on the internet. But my light went out, which is great. Yeah. I don't have a charger in here, so I wonder if you guys can still see. Oh, you can still see. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, everybody. But yeah, I can still see. Hopefully everybody can still see enough to be able to figure everything out. I went ahead and put the light on the charger, so when we get a little bit further, I'll go grab it and everything will light back up for everybody. But I'm gonna go ahead and clean off this spindle with the brake clean. I'm just gonna soak it for a minute to try to get all the loose anything in there out. And you really want to get this spindle clean, because you're gonna pack this spindle with grease. And you don't want a bunch of junk in your grease, you know, for your new bearings. So you can go ahead and clean this off. Give it another spray, and I'm gonna go grab another paper towel. And that's going to be it for that. So we'll go ahead and get... So I already prepped the rotor. If I didn't mention that already, I'm pretty sure I did. So the rotor is about to go on really soon. Normally this is when you would pack the bearing and put it on the inside, but since I already did the other side, I did that at the same time as I did the other side, just so I wouldn't have to do it on camera in front of you guys. But I'll go ahead and get you guys adjusted over here a little bit so you got a little bit of better angle. And you can see a little bit better now because there's light over here. So I'll put you right there and you can see me put on the rotor. So let me go ahead and get it done. And the reason why we went with new rotors instead of trying to get them turned or anything is what's the point? I mean, you would spend $100 getting a set of rotors turned nowadays when you could just buy new ones for $20 each. It just doesn't make sense anymore. It probably did back in the day make sense. It just doesn't now. Alright everybody, I got a big glop of grease. This is I think this is Grease Co. or something. It's off Amazon. It's a lithium complex base, general purpose, high performance grease. We can go ahead and just slap it on there. And you want to just make sure to get the whole spindle covered in grease so that when the bearing gets on here, it has plenty of grease to run on and you don't have to worry about running out. So we're going to go ahead and glop this on real quick. It don't matter if you get a little bit on the threads. You're going to tighten that nut down and everything's going to be tight anyway. But you're going to go ahead and you can see there's a lot on my hand. So it's running down the spindle and everything. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pack my bearing real quick. And you guys will get to see me do that actually. So I'm going to go ahead and just take, this is the outer bearing. What you want to do is you want to take this outer metal flange, the outer metal flange, where this big opening is, and you just want to put it upside down and shove grease in there. And just keep shoving grease in there all the way around until you start to see it come out the rollers. And then you know that you've pushed some grease through it. And it's not completely packed yet. You got to get both sides of both of these openings, but this is pretty much how you grease a bearing. It's not all that complicated. I mean, you can get those tools online that do it, where you just put it in there and it does it for you. This does you can do the same thing with your hands in a pair of gloves. My college teacher actually showed me to do this. That was not a very fun day. You're just sitting there just smelling wheel bearing grease, hands covered, because he didn't want us to waste the gloves, so he had us cover our hands in grease. This is why I wear gloves when I do this, because I remember that it was disgusting. I did not like it. I was 18 and I had never done anything like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, like as we get older, you know, we stop caring as much about everything. And maybe that's just me, but I feel like I'm starting to not care as much. But I'm gonna go ahead and rub some of this grease into the rollers. And you can see it doesn't really get in between the rollers that well when you just rub it in there. So you gotta go to the top, like I said, and go ahead and just feed some in through there too. You can see when I wipe it, it pushes it down in there. And it pushes more more grease behind it. And eventually the whole bearing is packed with grease and you can install it. We're pretty close. So I can see grease all the way around on the inside of this bearing now. I got the outside of the bearing nice and greased up. And I'm confident that with as much grease as I have on the spindle and the grease that I put in here, we're not going to have a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this glove off so I can pick up the rotor and put it on. And then we're going to put this wheel bearing in. Yes, the rotor's heavy, but I'm pretty sure I can get it in one-handed. Well, I'm using both hands somehow, but you get it. Hold on a second. Alright, I got it packed up in there. And what I like to do real quick before I put my washer behind the new wheel bearing, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna clean off this washer that goes behind the wheel bearing first. And I'm also going to pack more grease behind this wheel bearing before I put the washer on. Just, a little bit of safety insurance, Oh. So yeah. And I wish I had a bigger shop so I would not have to work on the ground all the time, because I'm getting older and this does not feel great. But I go ahead and I just go around the inside with more grease. That way we pack more into that bearing still. And we're going to leave as much as we can in there. I'm going to clean off this bearing plate. And we are going to get things assembled, ladies and gentlemen. And I know most of you are gentlemen and not ladies, but my wife watches my content, so at least I got one. There we go. We're going to go ahead and get this put back up in here. And let me grab a light for you guys. Alright, we're going to go ahead and go with a little bit weaker light. That way the light doesn't go out because I didn't charge it that long. But we're going to go ahead and just put this plate back in. Noticing which way it was put in the first place. You can see where the nut rode on the outside of this. So you know that this goes on the inside. That's it for that. I'm going to go ahead and put the new nut in. Now, these wheel bearings have a certain torque spec. Being honest with you, I've never torqued a wheel bearing. I always do them by hand, by feel, and that's exactly how I've always gotten them done. Even when I worked at the car dealerships and stuff, I never torqued them down. So I'll go ahead and I'll run it in by hand until I feel it get snug like that. And I'll do that and see, does it move back and forth? Do I have a bunch of play? And then you'll notice as I'm moving it back and forth, it allows me to tighten it more. Now I feel like that's tight enough. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to see where that hole is over here. See, there would be, in this castle nut, there's going to be a hole for your cotter pin. And it's not lined up yet. So what I'm going to have to do is turn this nut so I can put the cotter pin in. But I'm going to move you guys back so that you can watch me do it. But that's what I'm doing here real soon. Is I'm just putting the cotter pin back in. But yeah, let's get it done, guys. So the hole for my cotter pin is not exposed yet. It's over here though. I know where the hole is at least. It's not exposed. So I need to tighten just slightly more to get to that hole. I might have to back that off a little bit. That might be too tight. too loose now. And it's just one of those games of just lining up the hole with the cotter pin. I'm almost there, guys. Just walk it over a little bit more. Walk it over a tiny bit more. And boom. Step forward. Yeah, it's right there. See, I got the cotter pin stuck through, and cotter pin's covered in grease now because the caliper's covered in grease. But all you're gonna do is go ahead and just bend this back on the cotter pin and the leg of the cotter pin back over the bolt so that the nut can't spin, and you just install the wheel bearing and all that stuff. Yeah. And that feels just like the other side that I put in, so we're good. You got plenty of bearing grease in there, nothing's gonna wear out. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the caliper. Now this video is gonna be probably 40 minutes probably. In all reality, it's already 27 minutes long. So I'm gonna try to get things going a little bit faster and talk a little bit less, but we're getting things done already. Alright. So the first thing we need to do, got a new dust cover. It's really hard to put these on, but I'm gonna show you guys how to get them put on. They just want to walk when you go to put them on, so it's kind of hard to do it. But first I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wipe any extra grease off. They don't gotta be perfect. I'm gonna take my new cap, and you can see the dust cover doesn't want to go all the way on. You can't just force it on with your hand. You have to tap this in. Well, you don't want to smack this and make it all dented up. So what I did is I took the bearing race. I came with my new bearings for the inside, which if you don't know, when you get new rotors, they're going to have new races already installed. So you're always going to have a set of extra races. That doesn't sound right, but you're going to have a set of extra races to do this with. So if you get your own brake job, just know that you'll have this tool. You'll be able to take this and do this. So I'm just going to smack the bottom a little bit and smack the top and just walk it around until it goes all the way in. It's not perfect. There's not a perfect science to this. There's a tool that actually goes over this and does this better than what I'm gonna do. But for what we got going on, this is gonna be perfect. You see I'm just going back and forth. Eventually it will start to bind up because the bottom is in and the top's not. So you're just going to keep working along the lip until it goes in. It's almost in. You spin it. I get the side that's out over here instead of down on the bottom. And I'm going to go back and keep hitting it a couple more times. And you see, and it's starting to walk it around and spin it. But what this will do is it'll start to shape the cap so that it'll eventually fall in. So you really just got to keep hitting it. And it's starting to go in all the way. And you'll have the same difficulty doing this. It ain't gonna be easy for nobody. I've never seen somebody put one of these in without damaging it somehow. But we got the dust cover all the way down. Like I said we would. It didn't take forever to do it. Just a couple taps and some patience and you'll get it on there. And now these brakes are ready. I gotta get the brake pads put back on, put the caliper pins back in, and we're ready to go. Yeah, no. I did those too tight. I can feel it. I'm gonna pop that back off and I'm gonna loosen that nut. See, sometimes when you're working you make mistakes. You just gotta check things and go back. I have another cap, so I'm not worried about that one being busted real quick. Hey, and you guys, I don't normally edit these videos, so I apologize in advance. But I mean, I'm just showing you raw what I go through in my garage, you know. I just get in here and I work, and then sometimes things aren't perfect. We gotta fix them. So I'm gonna loosen that up, and I'm just gonna snug it down until I can find the hole. Now this spins a lot easier than it did before. So I'm just gonna find the hole and put the pin back through and call it a day. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. That spins a lot easier than it did just 30 seconds ago. And you don't want to overload the bearing because it will wear out prematurely. So you want some load on it, but you don't want it to be struggling. That makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop this cotter pin back over. And I don't think I damaged this dust cover all that much, but I'm gonna go ahead and pop a new one in because I bought 5 of them. I only needed 2. That's perfect. That side turns now just like the other side does. So I got it nice and in the right spot. I'm sorry that, you know, I'm making this harder than it should be. But, you know, sometimes you make mistakes. And I'm just showing you guys that I made a mistake. I'm going to go ahead and put a new one on. And instead of using that old cover, instead of using the thing, you know, I'm not going to do that. Never mind. I'll just actually use what I did before that worked. You don't want to start doing stuff you don't have to do. You can see it's still difficult to get it started. I got a little bit down in the bottom. You don't want to smack it up here where the high spot is. You want to smack it in the low spot starts to walk itself in. Fudge. You can see it's walking around. I don't want to go all the way in. Just give it a couple more taps. It will. It'll go in. You'll see it. Yeah, I told you, a couple more taps. It'll go in. I'm just walking around making sure it's all the way down. Boom. See? Sometimes you make a mistake, you gotta go back and fix your stuff before you go forward. And exactly what I just did there right in front of you guys. I'm not perfect. No one is. So we're gonna get you over on this side so you can see me push the caliper back in with my tools. And then we will proceed from there. Tool I'm going to be using to spread the piston back in. Had it for a while, it works really good. I got it for like $10 on Amazon. There's not going to be a link in the description. We're not one of those YouTubes yet. Eventually we will start doing stuff like that. And I just smashed my thumb up against the car, but eventually we will do stuff like that. We're just not there yet, guys. Just not there. If you'd like to help support us and share these videos so that more people can see the content. You know, I'm not the world's best mechanic, and I never claim to be. I'm never going to tell you that I know more than you. The reality is I'm just out here working on my car. You know? I'm not perfect. Make mistakes. We're going to get in here and get this done. You might notice the tool doesn't want to actually ratchet. Mine's worn out. Yours won't do this. You got to put force on mine in order for it to move. Which really sucks, but I have a different tool that does a similar job. It's just this one works better sometimes when you have the smaller calipers. You're going to tighten it. And get it as tight as you can. There we go. Now we're going to start pushing the piston in. And I'm not perfect. If I was going to bleed the brakes, which I'm not going to until I'm done. If I was going to bleed the brakes right now, this is when you would crack your bleeder right here open and get all the old fluid out. I'm going to shove all that old fluid back in the line, which is not the world's best idea. One, because I want to get this done. I don't want to deal with this shit right now. That's my car. This is a customer's car. I treat it a little bit different. It's my car. So, and you can treat your car different too if you want. I don't care. We're going to go ahead and get the sides right here lubed up for our pads. And I'm going to grab the pads and I'm going to slap this together. So we're using brake and caliper lube by CRC. I like this black one. There's different colors caliper lubes that claim to have different compounds in them and all that. I have some of them. I have this purple one from Permatex that states that it has ceramic in it and all this stuff in there. Honestly, I prefer this brown stuff, the gray stuff like this from CRC more than I like the other stuff. It's just a preference. Somebody probably in the comments is gonna dog me out about how you have to have ceramics because things break down and wash out over time and all this BS. But again, everybody, you like what you like. Brake pads right here, ready to go in with them. And if you're wondering, I'm not touching the faces. I don't ever touch the face on brake pads. I already cleaned the rotor surface off to get that protective layer of oil off of it. Sprayed up the brake clean to get it clean. Touch it real quick, make sure it's not greasy. It's not greasy. So yeah, we're good to go. Alright, got a new pad in here. This pad just got a little hook on the bottom. All you gotta do is get in there, wedged in there, and just pop the pad. That's it. That pad's in there. And grab your other pad. Pull it up. Lock it in there. It's got these little grooves on the top and bottom that it goes into. And then that's it. This pad, that sucks. What I was going to say is this inner pad doesn't move when the brakes are applied, just the outer caliper, the outer piston of the caliper. So I didn't damage the pad, even though I did drop it. So it's going back in. I'm going to hold it this time as I guide the caliper back on and back into place. And you notice that it just slid back in place. It's just because I lubed up right here, and now these two pieces of metal aren't having a bunch of friction between them. And we're going to go ahead and lube our slide bolts like I told you. Now, the only place I put lube on these is at the tip a little bit and back here where we know that slide is going to move back and forth on that bolt. It doesn't matter if you get a little bit on the threads. It'll actually make it easier to remove the bolt next time. And then we're going to slide it in there. I'm going to start tightening it in by hand, actually. I remember I told you guys a lot of these things are tactile for me. I like to do these things by hand. There's other people, they want to get it done quicker, and this video probably would have been quicker if I would have done it the other way. But I like to do things by hand. You do what you do. But yeah, it's honestly one of the easier brake jobs. A BMW was a lot harder than this, a lot more complicated. I mean, most German engineering is complicated, but those guys do a really good job. So you'll never hear me talk crap about Germans. They make really good cars. I don't care about the history and all that. They're really good engineers. ratchet and just get these things tightened down. And we're almost done. I'm gonna stop the video after I get these bolts tightened down for you guys so it's not as long of a video. But if you like this video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those things. Let your friends know, hey, you know, there's this guy doing DIY content on the internet. He's just a normal guy. I'm not rich, you know, I'm out here flexing my $100,000 whatever. Insert your favorite car. I'm just not that guy. I'm just trying to make it just like everyone else. So all your support is appreciated. But you're gonna see, you get these bolts tight, and there is a torque spec, but I'm gonna tell you it's tight. That's all I do. These bolts are not going to turn themselves. Now, I mean tight, I mean I'm pulling pretty hard on them, guys. I'm not just like snugging it up and calling it a day. They were hard to remove, so I want to put enough torque on them that they'll, you know, they'll stay in. They were pretty tight when they came out. And that's it. I told you guys I would stop the video after this. We're done. I showed you how I'd go ahead and put a new set of brakes on this car. Normally when you do brakes, you want to do brakes one side at a time. That's why I did the first side before we started. And now you can hear the brakes are ready. They're not pressed down, but they are scraping properly like they're supposed to. Everything looks good. You can see the caliper does move back and forth a little bit like it's supposed to. And that's because the piston hasn't come out to meet the pad yet. My light's dead, and this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. Remember to like, comment, subscribe.